Thank you for joining us. Just to say before we start, this session is being recorded so that we can send it out to those who registered but were unable to attend, and also to have it as a on demand on our website after the event. So welcome all. Today's business masterclass is on the topic of what is innovation funding and how to get it. So we will introduce ourselves as speakers. We'll define what innovation funding is. We'll talk about what innovation funding can do for your business beyond just inject it with some funding, cash. What the main sources of innovation funding are. What steps do you need to take to be in a position to be innovation funding ready for when the opportunity comes along. We'll share some experiences of those who have accessed innovation funding for the first time. And then finally, we'll signpost to some of the support that is available to help you on your innovation journey. So by way of introductions, we're Growing Kent Medway, and one of the products and services we offer to the industry is through our grant funding programme. So we've delivered £3 million worth of innovation funding over the last 3 years, and that's been targeted at the plant-based food, drink and horticultural sectors in the region. Growing Kent Medway have a team of innovation growth managers, and you can see that those in post currently on the screen here. And we not only help sort of manage the competitions, create the competitions that we've delivered through Growing Kent Medway, but we support the businesses to navigate through the grant application process. And we're going to share some of the experiences that we've gained over the last 3 years with you today, and hopefully sort of inspire you or guide you towards your innovation journey. So presenting today is myself, Robert Saville. I'm based at NIAB. Chris McCarthy at the University of Kent, and Abhimanyu Sakar, also based at NIAB. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Abhi, who's going to talk about what is innovation and innovation funding.
Thank you, Robert. Before we start thinking about innovation funding, we need to think about the ideas or the innovation that lead us to a commercial outcome. And so basically, innovation is a practical implementation of ideas that result in an introduction of new goods or services, or an improvement in existing goods or services. So this is a definition by Schumpeter, who was a business thought guru. Maybe more than 100 years ago, he came up with this definition. And this is something that still stands the test of time. In order to realize innovation, which is taking this nascent concept or idea from the stage when it's first conceived to a commercial outcome or a commercial implementation, we need resources. And one of the most important resources, apart from time, is that of funding. So these can be in the form of grants or loans or investment, and we will talk about that later. And this funding helps us actualize or implement the innovation. There are various sources of funding, especially various agencies. They provide funding because innovation not only benefits the business, but benefits the society as a whole through improved productivity. The type of funding that is available depends on the industry, the maturity of the innovation, and we'll talk about that again in the next few slides, and also the risk appetite or the goals of the funder. Next slide, please. So before we talk about innovation funding, we will talk about the idea itself and how that is developed into a commercial product or service. In order to describe this, we will be using the term the technology readiness levels or TRLs. Now, this is a system to develop the levels of your idea or innovation. And this influences the type, amount, and length of funding required. It was initially developed by NASA in the 1970s to describe their technology maturity for the space program, and EU adopted it for their innovation R&D programs in 2010. And this was further standardized by the International Standards Organization in 2013. So the TRL of your innovation will determine the funding requirements to progress your idea to market, and also the choice of funders. Next slide, please. So in this system, there are 9 technology readiness levels from 1, which is the nascent idea, to 9, which is a commercial product. And the main purpose of innovation funding would be to progress your nascent idea or concept through to a commercial product, increasing in technology readiness levels along the way. So the first 3 technology levels are the basic principles, where you have your idea, and then you formulate a concept, and you then verify the concept through experimental means. So basically, it's a proof of concept or feasibility study. And this block of technology readiness levels are often grouped together as feasibility studies. And here, most of the funders will support you to a very large extent with a small amount of funding, just to prove the feasibility of your idea. In case of government funding in the UK, because again, as I mentioned, innovation is often seen as a public good apart from a business owned property. The government funding agencies will fund a large proportion of your costs when you are applying for a grant in this technology level. So basically, just to check the feasibility of your novel concept or idea, or proof of concept. Then we progress on to validating the proof of concept further in a laboratory or testing environment. And then looking at that, the concept in industrially relevant settings. And finally, testing it out in the relevant environment in case of key enabling technologies, which will allow you to develop the idea further into a commercial product. So this is the validation or the industrial stage, industrial research stage of the TRLs, that is TRL 4 to 6. And again, the government funding agencies will give you a larger sum of money, because at this stage, often you need larger levels of funding to progress your idea. But they will give you a smaller proportion of your money and that is required. And you will be expected to provide a larger proportion of the funding, because now you have an idea that is proven, at least in terms of its feasibility. Finally, the last 3 levels of the TRLs are TRL 7 to 9, where you now have a prototype that you can demonstrate or verify in the operational environment, and you qualify the product. And finally, you test the product in an actual market setting and have manufacturing ready to go to market. So this is the realization or the commercialization block of TRLs. Next slide, please. So we will take a look at a hypothetical example, a GM cola, which is a hypothetical drink that we are creating. Here, the concept of the idea stage will consist of brainstorming initial ideas and outlining the proposed drink's characteristics, its flavor, its function, its probable target market. We'll look at formulation and recipe development, experiment with the ingredients, proportions, and flavors to create a base recipe, and then do some sensory evaluation and refinement to assess its taste, its overall appeal, and refine the feedback, refine the recipe based on feedback. So we will then come up with a feasible concept that we can then develop further. In the second stage, we will prototype this product by developing small scale batches to test production methods, test its stability and shelf life, and also look at the packaging in terms of its sustainability, in terms of its usefulness, and in terms of its suitability for marketing as we commercialize this product. Once we have a validated product, we will then take it towards commercialization by doing some pilot production and market testing, and manufacturing and scaling up, and then finally doing a market launch and distribution of the commercial product. So for each of these stages, we will look at different sources of funding. Oftentimes, the last stage of funding is obtained not so much by government agencies, but also look at some commercial investment, because now we have a product that's nearly ready to go to market. So at this stage, the last three technology levels, if we were to get government sourced funding, we would then have typically a small proportion provided by the government agencies, but the government agencies will provide more in terms of external support and access to market kind of support. So next step, please. Yeah, thanks. So what can we do about accessing innovation funding, and what does it actually do for the business? So as I mentioned earlier, the main sort of reason for accessing business funding is to allow an innovation to be commercialized. The other things that happen when you access innovation funding is your business productivity and profitability increases, and you gain a competitive advantage over other businesses in the field who are not innovating. And you're also future-proofing your own business. Additionally, accessing innovation funding can allow you to leverage additional funding in your business. For example, by exploring the possibility of accessing R&D tax credits. So this is something that you need to talk to your tax accountant, and you'll find how that can be done. Next slide, please. So beyond that funding, there are other very good reasons to apply for business grant funding. One of them is network and collaboration. And I just want to let you know that there is a very good write-up on this topic in our Growing Kent Medway page. If you look at this link, which says top 5 reasons to apply for business grant funding. This was created by Rob Saville and Lauren, our GKM staff, who sort of have elaborated on these reasons that I'll talk about. So you gain, as I was saying, you gain the networking with research organizations that Chris will talk about, as well as other business partners who are in complementary fields, and allow you to access technical support for a lot of your innovation activities. It also helps you build confidence as a business in terms of developing products, innovating, accessing further innovation funding, and accessing markets. It helps you with marketing and promotion activities because it gives your business exposure in terms of your innovativeness in the field, and helps you access skills and which are not easily accessible to your competitors. And sort of this is in conjunction with your research organization partners and also your business partners. Next slide, please. So you have to make a decision before you embark in this journey. Are you ready to commit to access innovation funding, because you have to devote time to doing this? You need to figure out whether you have the capacity and resources to actually embark on this journey. You need to have a very clear concept in your mind as to what your innovation is and how you would go about accessing the innovation funding. And this needs to be useful for your business. So it is not just a concept that you have a very interesting idea. This is an idea that you will actually take to market. And you finally need to map out in your own mind a pathway to realize the concept. Next slide, please. So what are the main sources of innovation funding that are available to a small business? The main source that we will be talking about mostly today are government grants. This is administered by Innovate UK at the main part. There are other charitable organizations and foundations who specialize in various sectors, for example, environment or the medical field, who can give you small grants. There are R&D loans, which again allow you to sort of progress your innovation. And there are some accelerator models that in exchange for equity allow you to develop your innovation. Then we have venture capital, which provide early stage funding, again, in exchange for equity. Even better in some cases are very early stage angel investors who allow you to just get started in your journey, but also mentor you throughout your innovation journey. There are various competitive competitions and prizes that, again, give you a small amount of funding to start testing your concept. Finally, there is, of course, crowdfunding and corporate venturing, but we'll be mostly talking about government grants, and GKM is also a part of this ecosystem, whereby we receive money from Innovate UK, and then we run competitions to give grants to businesses. Next slide, please. So this is where I hand over to my colleague, Chris, who will take you through the next steps.
Thank you very much, Abby. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to go through a few slides with you this morning around the kind of next stages. Once you've identified your potential funding options, what steps do you then need to take to get you in a position to receive that funding? Next slide, please. Thank you. So we're going to talk about this morning why you might consider partnering with a research organization or another business, how to make sure you're eligible, how to check if your idea is a good fit for the competition you're going for, how to develop a strong proposal and what you're looking to achieve, and how you might look at the TRL levels that Abby's mentioned. What you need to do when you're filling out the application, the importance of leaving plenty of time, and why feedback is such an important commodity. Next slide, please. So if we start by looking at a research organisation, why might you want to collaborate with a research organisation on funding? Well, there are several reasons. First of all, it adds credibility and expertise to your application. So by partnering with a research organisation, you're adding a layer of kind of academic integrity and legitimacy, and research backing to your project. Funders view universities as kind of bastions of knowledge and expertise, and the same with other research organisations. And their involvement can help strengthen the credibility of your application when you're certainly working with organisations like Innovate UK. It can enhance the proposal as well by incorporating kind of university research and expertise that already exists. That helps to make a more robust application, and it can demonstrate a comprehensive approach and a deeper understanding of the technical challenges that your innovation may come up against. You'll also have access to a talent pool. So universities especially have a wealth of talent, from experienced professors right through to students and graduate students in particular. And collaboration allows you to tap into that pool of a specific expertise, which might support your project. So you can gain expertise or access to expertise that perhaps you don't already have readily available in the organization. Research organizations often have state-of-the-art facilities that you would be able to use and gain access to as a result of partnering with them. And for some innovate funding and innovation funding, it's actually a requirement that you partner with a research organization. So they may well say that it's a business-led application, but must partner with a research organization. So it's worth having those conversations with your local research organization that links to what you're looking at early on to help start that process. Next slide, please. So, okay, you want to collaborate with a research organization. What are you looking for? Well, you want to look at an organization that has a research focus, that has research programs that maybe are aligned with your innovation, your project's idea. You can do that by looking at their websites, exploring their faculty profiles or their recent publications to find the right fit for you. And Google is a great resource for searching multiple universities, but equally every university's website or research organization's website has links to their own specific areas of expertise. You want to look at universities who've got a history of collaborating with businesses and applying for innovation funding and securing that funding. There are lots of universities that work in that field and do a lot of large-scale innovation funding, but there are also a lot of organizations that will help with the feasibility stage and the early stage funding applications as well. Consider the location. So if it's a university, that perhaps one that's geographically close to you, but don't put that ahead of the expertise. The ideal for you is to find the right expertise, and if that means going slightly further afield, then that's fine. In this day and age, I think you can make those relationships work just as easily. However, the ideal is obviously to be somewhere local that you can go and meet face to face. It makes the whole process slightly easier. You want to look for faculty experts, so those individuals within the organization who have expertise directly related to what you're looking to do. And as I say, their websites are a great resource for that. You can search for a subject, and more often than not, you will get a list of academics or people within the organization that have that expertise. In terms of engaging with a research organization, again, website is the first place to go. Many universities have a landing page around which details how they work with business. A lot of research organizations will have direct email contacts, so it's worth having a look online. You want to try and establish a relationship with that research organization as soon as possible. Start to foster a relationship when you're thinking about innovation. And the reason for that is it will help you be a lot more agile when innovation funding is announced. Often there's 8 to 10 weeks of lead time from the announcement date to the date that you've got to submit the application. And if you have got to start developing a new relationship at that point, it can be tricky to get the application over the line. If you start to talk earlier on, even if there's not funding that perhaps you're aware of at that point with an organization, you can start to progress and develop that relationship in time for the next opportunity. Next slide, please. So this is a live version from my own institution, from the University of Kent. This is our website. As you can see there, I've typed into the search bar at the top right-hand side of the screen, innovation funding, and the first thing that's come up is research and innovation support, which is the University of Kent's business-facing support for innovation. Every organisation will have something slightly different. You want to look at keywords like research and innovation funding, or knowledge exchange. This is likely to bring up the right results for every institution that you're looking at. Often they are quite clearly signposted. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of a search to find them. Next slide, please. So, okay, we've looked at research organizations and why you might want to work with them. Why might you want to collaborate with another business? Well, there's several reasons there as well. First of all, there might well be complementary skills. So businesses can combine their strengths to address a broader range of expertise needed for an innovation project. It can also help reduce costs by sharing that financial burden of research and development. It can help you mitigate risks. So innovation projects are inherently risky. Collaboration with another business allows you to share the financial and technical risks associated with developing a new product or a new service. Working with another business could also enable you to have faster market entry. So by combining resources and distribution channels, collaboration can expedite that process of being able to bring an innovation to market. You'll each have your own established customer base, distribution networks, and they can be leveraged to offer a greater market penetration. It can also help strengthen your application. So a joint proposal from multiple businesses can demonstrate a kind of more comprehensive understanding of the market and the challenges involved, and that can make that application more competitive and attractive to a potential funder. It gives you the opportunity to collaborate and foster knowledge sharing and kind of cross-pollination of ideas between different teams. That can lead to more innovation and more well-rounded products in what you're looking to achieve longer term. And it can also help develop longer term partnerships. And we've seen this at Growing Kent Medway with businesses that we've helped to matchmake, where they actually are now working on bigger, larger scale innovation. And from the early stages, they're now looking at much larger and more ambitious projects through that fostering of that relationship from innovation funding early on. Next slide, please. So how do you find somebody to partner with? How do you find another business? Well, you'll have potentially your own current network, and there may well be complementary businesses that you're currently working with, in which case, great. However, if there isn't, you can look at industry and membership associations. So for example, the National Farmers Union or ourselves at Growing Kent Medway, we have a network of businesses and members and affiliates that we've worked with, and we will always be more than happy to help make introductions. You can look at innovation funding platforms. So Innovate UK, which is the UK research and innovation government-backed innovation funding portal, if you like. Innovate UK also offer a platform called Business Connect, which can help you introduce new partners to your business. It can help pair you and matchmake you with other organizations that might be able to complement your research or your innovation. You can look at your own supply chain partners. So there might be existing suppliers or partners that you work with that might have complementary expertise or resources that could benefit your innovation. And you can look at networking events. So the Kent and Vixter Chamber of Commerce, the Federation of Small Businesses, and ourselves at Growing Kent Medway often hold networking sessions, both online and in person. And that can be a really excellent opportunity for you to kind of meet and start to have conversations around where you might have shared ideas and innovation targets. If you go onto an Eventbrite or similar website and search for things like food and drink, it will highlight all of the events in your local area that might meet the criteria you're looking for, and you can often register for free and just turn up on the day. Next slide, please. So you've got your potential partners, you know roughly what your innovation funding is, the type of fund you're looking for. What do you then need to consider before you look to apply? Well, there's often some strict rules around who can and can't apply for a particular fund. So one of those could be around company size, be that turnover or the number of staff you have employed with the business. So you need to check that. They may well be sector specific, so it might be targeted at the agricultural industry or construction, and obviously you need to make sure that your organization aligns with that. They could be looking for a specific TRL level, so the technology readiness levels that Abby mentioned earlier. It might be that they are looking for organizations who are in that second phase, that kind of they've done their feasibility and they're in the second phase of their innovation. It could also be that they're aiming at the earlier phases. So you need to check that your current level of technology readiness aligns with the areas that they're looking for. You need to also consider the level of financial contribution that you may need to make. So I will mention this again in a slide or so's time, but often innovation funding isn't for the entire cost of the project. So you need to bear in mind that you might need to make a financial contribution and be aware that is a potential when you're looking at funding, because obviously if you don't have the means to do that, then that might not be the right fund to pursue. And one other thing to consider is intellectual property. So if you're collaborating with another organization, there's likely to be intellectual property that you develop as a result of collaboration. And it's a lot easier if you have those conversations very early on to understand who owns what and how that might be distributed. So just bear that in mind when you're looking to apply for funding. Next slide, please. So what else do you need to consider? Well, as I say, funding streams will often have very specific requirements. So it might be that there is a minimum or maximum project length. So can you complete that project in the minimum time? Because it might be that you actually only need to run your project for 4 months and the minimum time is 6. And equally, can you get the project completed in their maximum project length? Because that will dictate how potentially successful your application is. You need to consider timing. So consider seasonality. So if you're working in the food and drink industry, say you're an apple grower, and your project needs to start in August, that might not work because that's going to be the busiest time of year for you as a grower, and you might not have the company resources to dedicate to that application, and they can be a little bit labor intensive. You do need to put some time aside, so it's something to consider when you're looking at grants. There may also be a minimum or maximum project value. So there might be grants, say, from £50,000 to £200,000. In that instance, would a smaller grant perhaps be better? Is it potentially that you only need, say, £10,000 to start your project? Equally, is £200,000 not enough? If you think your project actually needs £500,000 worth of funding, then that probably isn't the right fund to look at. So that's something to be aware of. If we go back to Abby's GKM Cola example, if we're at that formulation and recipe development stage, which is around TRL level 2 in that feasibility period, is the funding aimed at a higher level, say TRL 4 or 5, when you're in that industrial research stage? If you can't demonstrate to the funder that your TRL level is where they need it to be, it's unlikely that you'll be successful. So you need to consider that when you're looking at a potential funding stream. Often they will call them things like industrial research or feasibility. So it'll give you an indication of where they're looking for you to pitch the idea. The final thing, and I touched on it before, is the grant intervention rate. So this means the rate of funding that will be offered of the total project. So for example, if your project is a £10,000 project, the grant terms may be that they will cover 80%. In that instance, you need to contribute that additional £2,000 worth of financial backing for the project to be completed. And that will be a requirement of the grant being given. It's therefore really important that you make sure that that intervention rate works for you and your business when you're looking at potential options. Next slide, please. So once you're happy with your criteria, you then need to consider what you need to include in your example, or in your application rather. So if we think about the example Abby gave, if you're around the concept and formulation stage, you need to demonstrate in your application how you're going to progress either within that TRL level or to the next feasible TRL stage. So you need to explain what your steps are to progress as part of the innovation funding, i.e. if you're applying for £10,000, how are you going to use that money to progress to the next stage of your TRL? You also want to just bear in mind and have on the periphery how you ultimately are going to get to that final phase where you're looking at routes to market. And it's always a good idea to explain what you plan to do after you've had that innovation funding. When the project's completed, what's your next step? It just shows a kind of longer term goal and how it might ultimately lead you to a profit and a marketable product. Next slide, please. So other things you might need to consider, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, but hopefully gives you a bit of an overview of what goes into a strong proposal. So you need to make sure through your entire application that you keep a central thread of your original idea running through that narrative. So don't be, make sure that you don't go off on a bit of a tangent, which it can be easy to do, and talk about other potential complementary projects that you're looking at. Make sure you keep that kind of central idea running throughout. Read the application guidelines. These often give you pointers to what the assessors will be scoring your application on, and that helps you tailor the written application. Make sure you have a look through the guidelines. Innovate UK have a wealth of resources, and there's a link shortly on their website for prior to application and during the application process. So make sure you have a look at those. You want to convey to the assessor who will be looking at your application your understanding of the target market, the size and the opportunity. So you need to demonstrate a clear need for your innovation and how you will potentially be able to access a market that doesn't already exist, or become very competitive in a market that already has similar or even the same innovation, and what makes yours different. So having a good understanding of market knowledge is key. And you can get a lot of that information from websites like the Office for National Statistics, and having a look online if you're not sure of your target market or the size of it. There's a lot of resources online that can help. You need to clearly justify your funding request. So you need to show how you will spend any money that's given. It's not enough to say, I need £10,000 for research and development. Be specific. The more detail you can give, the more assured that assessor will feel that when you get that money, you're going to use it to do all the things that you've said in your application. So the more detail you can give, the better. And also be aware that you need to do a risk assessment with an application around potential risks to your project, and you need to kind of show how you might mitigate any potential risks. So whether that is because weather dependent, if you're looking at a crop, or you might have somebody leave the employment of the organization. Things like that need to be considered in your application, how you'll overcome them in the event that they come up. So they're all things to be aware of. And as I say, there's lots of guidance online. Next slide, please. So most innovation funding competitions will have extensive guidelines around what they're looking for from an application. And as I say, it's essential to familiarize yourself with those guidelines before attempting to complete an application. So other things you need to look at and what you need to expect when you're looking at an innovation application are things like the scope of the project. So does your project meet the scope of the fund that they're offering, and do you meet that eligibility criteria? Can you clearly define the problem that you've got, and how your innovation will address that, and what problem your innovation will solve? And you need to explain the potential impact and benefits of that innovation, not just to you as an organization, but potentially the wider market or community, society in general. Anything you can provide there that shows an impact is really, really key when writing an application. As I said, you need to demonstrate a strong understanding of your target market, and that the potential commercial viability of what you're looking to develop. You need to outline a realistic and achievable plan for developing and commercializing your innovation project as much as you possibly can. And you should look to include things like timelines, milestones, and budgets where possible. Highlight what makes your innovation different. Explain how it's unique and differentiates itself from competitors or similar ideas on the market. And you may often, certainly with the larger funds, be asked for supporting documentation. So that could be costing breakdowns, so spreadsheets that break down the cost of the project. It could be collaborator input. For quite large scale, you might be asked for Gantt charts to show how your project's going to run, and potentially letters of support from other external organizations that feel your project's of benefit to them or will be worth supporting. So that's all things to consider when you're looking at them, especially for the larger scale applications. On the right hand side there is the website I mentioned earlier. So that's the Innovate UK website. It has a host of useful information for potential applicants. That QR code takes you directly there. If you have any questions, or if you're looking at innovation funding, that's a really good port of call. But you can also speak to any of the innovation growth managers like myself or Rob or Abby, Gary or Parag, and we were more than happy to help direct you to areas of support. So once you've written your application, or you're ready to start writing your application, one thing that I would recommend to anybody is to be aware of the time that you've got to submit that. Almost all forms of innovation funding involve some kind of online application form. Excuse me. Many of the funders have specific cut-off times for applications to be submitted, including any supporting documentation that you might need to upload. And the closer you get to that deadline, the busier those portals get. And it's not unheard of for uploads to fail due to the high volumes of traffic. So, for example, if there's an 11 a.m. upload cutoff for an Innovate UK project, don't leave it till 10:30, 11:15. Try and do it the day before, because there's nothing worse than putting all that effort in and then not being able to submit it. Next slide, please. And finally, from me, make sure you get feedback. Feedback is a really, really valuable commodity. So whether that's feedback from somebody within your organization, whether it's feedback from a collaborator, such as an academic institution or research organization, if it's one of us, one of the innovation managers, before you submit, have that conversation, get feedback, and make sure that you kind of take that on board and use that to strengthen your application. Next slide, please. And more than anything, if you are unsuccessful with your application, don't be disheartened. It's not unheard of for people to organizations to struggle with their first application, or even second or third application down the line, all of a sudden not get funding. We've worked with lots and lots of companies who may have not been successful first time, or have been successful with their first one, they're not their second application. They take the feedback. The assessors are very good at providing structured feedback about why you may not have got the funding. Use that and come back stronger the next time. And I will hand over to Rob. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So yeah, we wanted to use this section of the talk to share some of the experiences that businesses have had through the process of accessing innovation funding for the first time. So over the next few slides, I was going to present some sound bites from conversations I've had with businesses who have applied for funding, and they'll touch on some of the points that have been covered by Abby and Chris before. me. And I hope that sort of they might inspire you, or at least sort of demystify some of the process before you embark on your innovation journey. So on developing the idea, the first sort of seed of the innovation journey that you might embark on. One business owner that I spoke to said that preparing an application gave me time to think, read, and research my idea. So this particular applicant had an idea to help diversify their family farming business for a long time, but just didn't have the time to develop it. The focus was on the everyday. But sitting down, having an excuse to sort of really, immerse themselves in thinking about this idea because they were writing a grant application, just gave them that sort of encouragement they needed to sort of actually, or excuse they needed to actually sit down and think about it. That same business owner, when developing their work plan, which is a central part of an application to show the assessor how you're going to achieve your idea through the research project, said it was a useful process to help break down my end goal into steps and consider the time, costs, and resources required from the business and themselves. So it can be a really useful process, even if you don't necessarily get the funding the first time, because you've at least sort of got it out of your head, got it onto paper, and you can potentially sort of develop it in for future applications or internally in your business planning. On completing the application form, we appreciate that there's a tendency just to skim read the competition guidelines, but it is really important to read these guidelines thoroughly before embarking on writing your application. And one applicant said, everything was there that I needed to know. And that's because as funders, we want you to prepare the best application possible, because we want you to convey your idea so that our assessor panel can sort of really see your idea and really see the potential of it, so that we can decide whether it is sort of worthy of funding or not. And so our guidelines are set out to help you do that. And so by following them, you've got the best chance of producing a really good application and the best chance of getting it funded. On determining the costs and resources required to deliver the project, one applicant said that they were much more confident in developing the costing when they realised that these are just estimate costs, not exact figures. So as funders, we are aware that you are not going to be able to cost everything to the penny, before the outset of the project. And as a result, we have allowances for small differences at the claim stage, which comes after you've sort of embarked on the project and you're claiming at the other end. And there are allowances for small differences in costs from what you proposed in the first, at the application stage. And if the differences are significant, we also recognise that this can be the case. And there are mechanisms in place that allow you to sort of deviate from the original cost. So in the case of Growing Kent Medway projects, for instance, we have a project change request. So as long as you're sort of communicating with the funder during the lifetime of the project and saying, this is costing more than I thought at the outset, we can put you through a project change request, and it's very acceptable. So when you are putting your projects together or your proposals together, you don't need those exact figures, just best guess or best estimates. On collaborators, we've heard Chris talking about how you can bring collaborators into the project, and developing your idea, putting it on paper as a work plan. It helps you work out what expertise and resources you have within your business and areas where you may need to collaborate. And in an ideal situation, as Chris said, you'll be getting these collaborators in place at the very beginning, bringing them round your idea that you want to develop, getting buy-in, and then seeking the funding route that you know could take that idea to develop a project together with your collaborators. So that's the ideal situation. We almost need to understand what areas your business can bring to the idea and what areas are potentially need strengthening through collaboration. On the project outcome, one applicant asked me, what if my idea doesn't work? Well, we as funders who support innovation are all too aware that the original idea proposed is not necessarily going to lead to the outcome you outlined in your application. It's innovation funding, it's risky, it might go wrong, it might go in a different direction. And depending on the level of innovation or experimentation that's in your project or that the competition is funding, it's recognised that the idea may not work or may go a different direction. And this should still be seen as a success. It certainly is by funders, and it should be by you as a business, because it will enable you to learn from this and potentially apply to future innovations within your business. So asking the first-time applicants to reflect on the process of applying for funding, they've said, the support I received in developing my idea helped me to legitimize what until now has just been in my head. Doing it once helps take the unfamiliarity out of grant applications, and I would feel more empowered to apply for innovation grant funding again. And so this sort of says to me that, you know, getting over that first hurdle of applying for funding the first time, and you know, or second or third, helps you, encourage you to apply for further funding, get into the innovation journey, and you know, get familiar with the innovation ecosystem. So just sort of trying it out can lead to you know, you on a sort of long innovation journey that your company can benefit from. And we've had many examples within Growing Kent Medway of first-time innovators getting into funding through Growing Kent Medway funding, and then getting an appetite for further innovation and going on to other projects and other funding sources, which is really great to see. So my final soundbite that I'll present is having conversations made all the difference. So this was a first-time applicant. We as innovation growth managers helped to guide them through the process, and they said that, you know, without that guidance and support, they wouldn't have been able to put an application in. So I encourage you to reach out to people like us, innovation growth managers in Growing Kent Medway, and other innovation support agencies offer these you know, roles like us. And also reach out to your sort of collaborators if relevant, because working together with people, talking through it is really helpful. And it's our job to support you to develop good applications and get your idea across. So really encourage you to reach out. On that, we'll segue to signposting to support to get you innovation funding ready. So Growing Kent and Medway, as I've said, have a team of innovation growth managers. I introduced them at the beginning. We all have different specialisms. We all work at the 4 different organisations or research organisations across the county, and we're available for you to reach out to. Our specialities are available on the Meet the Team section of our website, but also you can contact us through the website, chat functions and such. So please do that. Each of the universities and ROs have business innovation support services. So beyond Growing Kent and Medway, you can tap into those. Chris mentioned how you might search them through Google or just through our websites. They're available to you. Growing Kent Medway have a great website with lots of information on, and on the funding page, which you can access through the top tab, it says funding, has a number of our grant competitions that we deliver through Growing Kent Medway. There's no more scheduled grant competitions that we will deliver. The program's starting to come to its end. But there might be some coming in the future, so do watch this space. We also advertise any relevant additional or external funding opportunities, which keep an eye on. We always put them on when we find ones that are relevant to our target sectors. The Kent and Medway Growth Hub is also a really useful local resource. These advertise or keep up to date with a lot of council or local authority opportunities through the Shared Prosperity Fund and Levelling Up funding that's coming through the different councils. And they also advertise things like, or make you aware of things like the Kent Medway Business Fund, so the recycled loan scheme that Kent County Council run. We've heard Innovation Funding, Innovate UK run their funding through the Innovation Funding Service, the IFS. So this is a portal that advertises or makes you aware of all the applications, competitions that are available, and they're searchable by keyword and innovation area. So you can keep an eye on those routinely, or you can sign up to their newsletter or register for email alerts so that they're coming into your email account, and you can keep an eye on what opportunity is right for your business or your innovation idea. And finally, IUK Business Growth. So Chris mentioned Business Connect, which is all about networking and connecting you to the right people. Business Growth is about taking, it was formerly called Innovation Edge, Innovate UK Edge, now renamed Business Growth. It's about taking small and medium-sized innovative businesses towards, assisting them in making steps towards scale. So if that is you and you want to be connected to one of their innovation and growth specialists, all you have to do is fill in a form and you get into their ecosystem. So that was it from Chris, Abby and I, and I'll open the floor to questions. I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to Lauren.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, all of you, for that really informative presentation. You covered so much. It was fantastic. I haven't seen any questions appear in the chat. Does anyone on the call have anything that they would like to ask the team? Susanna say no. You can unmute yourself or pop something in the chat if not. Thank you, Susanna. We will be sharing the link to this presentation, so you will be able to watch it back. And obviously, we've shared the details in the presentation, but please just get in touch with us if you want to have a conversation after this presentation with any of the team. They would be very, very happy to speak with you. Yeah, the door is always open, so we're really keen for people to get in touch. Brilliant. So I don't think we have any questions. You've obviously answered everything very comprehensively. Thank you for all that. I'm just going to quickly share what we have in the next couple of masterclasses coming up, in case these are of interest for everyone. So next week on Tuesday as well, you can see that, we have a session on cash forecasting. So if you're unsure about how to kind of write your cash forecasts, this will be a really comprehensive run through of everything you need to know. So it's aimed at startups and people looking to grow their businesses. So that should be a really useful session. And then we also have Rachel Carley the following week on the Tuesday from Carley Coaching, and she's going to be doing a kind of introduction into B Corp, so everything you might need to know about the opportunities and challenges, why you might want to consider applying, and how it could be beneficial for your business. So I think that's it. Unless there's any other questions, we'll wrap up and say thank you so much for hosting and delivering. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.